Welcome to the Private Practice Startup, where we inspire you from startup to mastery. We chat with entrepreneurs, experts in the mental health and business arenas, and successful private practitioners to give you the tools needed to make your dream practice a reality. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, and so much more. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey there, Startup Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Katie Lemieux, and here with me is the ever trusty Dr. Kate Campbell, my
What's up, guys?
Other co-host, sidekick, and so much more. We are super excited that you guys are here. It is a Friday on the day that we're recording, and it's been a very long week for both Kate and I. So I'm actually energized and excited. Usually by Friday, I'm pretty dead. But we hope that you joined us last week for our show with Lisa Wozniak on how to use LinkedIn to grow your private practice. This was a great episode and really resounded a lot of the teachings that Kate and I already talked about. So you'll want to know, and especially as a therapist thinking about LinkedIn, when we think about our stakeholders and other people who share our ideal client, LinkedIn is a perfect platform to connect with them. So go back and check out that show. But first and foremost, we wanted to welcome you if you're new here, and you are our very important guest. Actually, in fact, you are now part of our Startup Nation superhero family, so welcome. And for that, we have a special gift for you. If you're a therapist, you definitely need paperwork, and you want to make sure that your paperwork is attorney approved. So we would like to give you our paperwork to try out for free. So head over to privatepracticestartup.com, go to the resources tab, and there you'll look to download the free customizable attorney approved HIPAA form. So that is our gift for you. And of course, if you're a loyal listener, welcome back. We're super happy to have you. Today, we're really excited to welcome Carrie Nola to our podcast. She will be talking about scarcity proofing your practice. I'm realizing as I'm introducing all of the guests and the topics is Kate and I must have been really wanting to deliver to you guys a lot of mindset work because we've been looking at that in our marketing e-course and really realizing that as therapists, we have mindset work, but business mindset is a completely different animal, and we really want to support you with that. So we're excited that Carrie is here, and Carrie is a retired licensed psychotherapist. It makes her sound older, but she's really not. She hung up her license here in the state of Florida, but moved to California, and she turned an intuitive healer and mentor. So welcome, Carrie.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. It's great to be here.
We're so excited to have you here.
It's been a long time coming, so we are looking forward to diving into your topic. But before we do that, Kate?
Let's take a quick break for our Startup Nation superhero shout-out. This comes from Elizabeth B. Kate and Katie always keep it interesting and entertaining, covering a wide variety of topics about the business side of private practice. I highly recommend their podcast. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the love. We appreciate it, and we always appreciate your ratings, subscribing, and reviews. If you want to have a Startup Nation superhero shout out on our next episode, definitely send us a review on Google My Business or Facebook. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. And now let's take a quick break from today's sponsor. If you're in private practice, you wear a lot of hats. And some of those hats are totally great, but some, like filing taxes and running payroll, for example, not so great. That's where Gusto comes in. They make payroll, taxes, and HR actually easy for small businesses like your private practice. Fast, simple payroll processing and benefits and expert HR support all in one place. Gusto automatically pays and files your federal, state, and local taxes so you don't have to worry about it. Plus, they make it easy for you to add on health benefits and even 401ks for you and your team. Let them wear one of your many hats. You have so many better things to do with your time. Listeners get 3 months free when they run their first payroll. Try a demo and see for yourself at gusto.com/PPS. That's gusto.com/PPS. Okay, Carrie, it's great to have you here. Let's talk all about scarcity proofing your practice. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you for this particular topic.
Oh, sure. I have found that the more therapists I talk to, the more I realize how deeply steeped our field is in scarcity consciousness. There is like an allergy to receiving in exchange for the service that we offer. Like there is a lot of shame and guilt. and fear that often rises up in us. It's like we're drawn to this field. I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. It's like, do we have money fears or issues with receiving? And so we're drawn to the field, or are we, who knows? But the reality is, how do we give and receive and allow those things to be flowing in greater balance? And how do we really identify where our wounds are around our relationship with money so that we can scarcity proof the practice and understand how we're contributing to any lack reality that appears to be occurring in our business, so we can clean that up and our nervous system can be more full, and then we're more available to serve and to give at greater levels.
Carrie, I love that you talk about this reciprocal relationship when we begin to clean up the scarcity stuff of like the infusing the passion and it becomes more abundant. Talk more on that.
Absolutely. So a lot of this goes back to our worthiness issues. Am I allowed to receive in exchange for my giving? And I find a lot of people, I mentioned it before, but this shame around letting ourselves receive. What does it say about me if I ask for something in exchange for my service? And how much am I allowed to ask for? And how much pushes me over the line between being, a giver to starting to be selfish or greedy? And I find that when I ask the average therapist what they would like to make for their salary, typically they say on average $60,000 a year. And that's fine if that's genuinely what your abundance frequency is dialed into and desires to be. And what I find is, my question is, if you could make more than that, doing the work that you love, would you be open to it? And 100% of the time they say, yes, of course. So it's like, well, you're taking 60,000 or that's what you're stretching for because that's what you think is possible, not because it's what you're actually designed to receive. And once they start to know that something else is possible, there's like this opening that occurs and this permission that we start to give ourselves. That's why I think this conversation is so important among us as colleagues, because if those of us who feel excited about being abundant and prosperous while we practice, if we're hiding those desires, it's like, yeah, we feel like we're the only ones who want to do that. And we're judging it as a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And as you talk, I just want to keep saying, say more, say more, say more. Like I can have specific questions, but I just love this topic so much in regards to, our work, the money stuff, the scarcity, and it is. And it's been so programmed in us for, I think, such a long time of being helpers and healers. And like, you should want to give and, give for free and pro bono or a low cost. And it's just so, it's damaging. It's damaging both to us, right? And also really serving our clients the best way we can. And I remember, this wasn't a money thing, but I remember, well, it wasn't a money thing, but it was like kind of taking on a client that was referred to me by someone else that I shouldn't have been working with because I just don't enjoy that population. I'm not skilled at that. And it's just kind of like, it wasn't good for me and it probably wasn't good for them because I wasn't showing up as my best self. And I also know if you're taking clients then less than you feel that you're worth or desire, like how are we showing up in the room?
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up because scarcity proofing the practice is not only about money, but it's also about where you're being scarce in other ways. So are you taking on clients that don't really resonate, that you aren't here to serve, this generalist mindset? It's like, yes, we can help a variety of people, but it doesn't. So I think there's something different between who we can serve and who we're meant to serve, and really being clear about that, which one assists you in your marketing so people really feel seen and heard and they want to hire you, or they know that you are the person to be hired to support them. But also it helps in being able to welcome more abundance at the same time because the abundance mindset begins to increase and expand.
Where are other places that scarcity shows up?
Competition versus collaboration, I think, is a really significant one in our field. So like I work with trauma. And so now we start being really scarce around, sharing resources or referrals or ideas, or we think that because there's multiple people in the same zip code that serve this population that we have to compete for clients. Yeah, that's
how funny that you say that, because I was just speaking with my interns today on that. And Kate and I, we have our private practice paperwork, but we also have business paperwork. And many times we will get something like, do you have a non-compete? And we just don't believe in that. So we wouldn't even have it. And I don't believe in non-competes, and I think they are from scarcity mindset. And interestingly enough, just true abundance. So my friend and colleague who I went to school with, so we were trained the same way, we graduated at the same time. We actually are both trained in Gottman. We both practice affair recovery and working with couples. We work in the same office, and we refer to each other because someone might call and say, can I see you on Friday? No, I don't work on Fridays, but Susan does. Or she'll be working with a couple that needs individual, and she refers to me. And it's this constant. I think like in a 2-week time period, she sent me 3 referrals. So the abundance is there. And Kate and I also, our 3 brand qualities are passion, quality, and collaboration. And we say that all the time, that it's collaboration and it's not competition. And I think because we believe that, we also see that in the space. We see that in the space of the practice builders. There are so many practice builders out there, but we all have a really cool niche. And what a beautiful thing to say, I don't know much about marketing your group practice. I can give you the foundation of marketing, but you should talk to Katie K. She's amazing. It's so beautiful to be able to say that and be able to do that and just give. And that's really the abundance stuff.
Yes, there are plenty of clients to go around, and everyone is so different, so unique. Everybody has a unique specialization and personality that they bring to it. So to be able to be tapped into that abundance and collaboration, it goes so much further than the fear and scarcity and that rigidity.
Absolutely. And I remember the first time I was in private practice, and I started doing workshops and groups for other clinicians about how to grow their practice. And the most common question I got is, why are you telling us your secrets? Now we're going to be competition. And I just laughed and I said, I don't believe in competition. Like, the people that need what I have don't need what you have. Like, they are here for me, and then the other people need you. And there's for a variety of reasons. So it can look like we're the same, but we each have a unique signature of our gift. And at different times on the path or for different reasons, we might be a fit. And so the more we can lift each other up and rise together, the more space that creates for us to serve and to help each other. I mean, it might appear that we're competitors, both all here supporting other clinicians, and yet we're coming together as friends and backing each other up and sharing what we know. So I just love that. I think it feels so expansive and alive, and it keeps the energy flowing. To me, it's like you can close a door and block more from coming in, or you can open a door and keep the flow of things being able to enter. And I think scarcity proofing the practice is keeping the door open. What doors have I closed that want to be open so that there's more of a flow in and out?
What questions do you ask both therapists and healers that you coach? What questions do you ask to help them identifying maybe where they have that scarcity mindset going on?
That's a great question. The first thing I start with is I start with money often, because it's one of the indicators where we can find this relationship and the nuances to it. And I ask, what are the first 3 words that come to mind when you think of your relationship with money? And there are things like fear, not enough, abandoned, scarce. Like, I use relationship things. So are you married to money? Are you divorced? Are you estranged? Do you feel connected, close? Do you feel distant? Do you feel separated? Do you feel misunderstood? And we really start to dive into the relational aspect, because money is just an energy. I remember when I started relating to my own money, I was journaling and I said, where are you? And it's like, I'm right here. Like, where are you? It's like, are you going to come out and play with me and let me serve you? Are you going to tell me what you need from me? Or are you going to keep trying to be manipulative and have me guess? And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. That's fascinating. Money talks. Who knew?
I love your narrative approach to the relationship with money. That was awesome.
Thank you. I journaled with money daily for 2 years when I first years ago, when I was really committed to understanding this feast and famine cycle that I was in with money. It was like there was this burst, and then I would sabotage myself and get sick or have to not be in the office for a while. And once I caught that pattern, I was like, why am I doing that to myself? What if I could continually receive and not have to get sick and not have to have these circumstances happen that keep me out of the office, but I was giving myself permission to serve and to take time off when I wanted to, but to still receive. And that's when my sources of passive income began to come online. And I created other streams of revenue where it wasn't just my service, my one-to-one service, but other opportunities for welcoming, so that I had more bandwidth to serve in the ways that I was called to.
Nice. I really like that exploration of money, especially in the relationship sense. I know when I started to tackle my own money relationship journey, and you speak about money as energy. So there's a book, that The Energy of Money, and it was actually written by a psychologist. I actually read it twice. And there's a lot of activities to really explore, like, your first memory of money. What was that like? I remember being one of the kids who stole gum from the store, right? I remember that. And that memory stuck in my mind. My mom, I don't know if she knew, or I was embarrassed about it or ashamed when I realized I shouldn't have done that. But I know there's those stories about where the parent marches the kid back in, and what happens in that little exchange. Is it a positive thing? Is it a negative thing? And then how does it get lodged in there? Because if people do have shame around money, they can't often hold on to it. It's just, it evaporates almost, or they're just constantly spending. So interesting that we look at that relationship. So as you begin to explore where people have scarcity mindset, what are some ways that you help them scarcity proof their practice?
The first thing is to clarify what they would love to see happening in the practice. I think clarity is one of the fastest ways to open these doors that we're talking about. And they have to be able to name and really claim what it is that they're desiring, so we can start to align the energies in that new way. So we get really specific. It's like, if you were open to the abundance, that's what would be happening in your practice. How many people would you be seeing a week? How much money would be flowing in? What would your savings account look like? How would you feel in your body when you woke up and prepared to be of service? So we look at all of these different elements, and we begin to I do a lot of different therapeutic techniques to work with this. So sometimes I do energy work or belief work, or if we need to tap into past life or family or lineage work. So whatever is called for, it looks a little different with everyone, because I find that depending on the source or origin of the wound, something different is often called for. We really name and claim the fears and the wounds, and then we begin to create a strategy to heal those. I find that oftentimes just naming and claiming it moves enough energy, though, to get the results. It doesn't have to be hard. I think we have this idea that it has to be this really strenuous work, and sometimes it does require a lot of time and attention and energy. Other times it can be as simple as one little mindset shift, and then there's this flow of opening. And that's why I like to work with people over a longer period of time, at least 3 to 6 months, so we can get in there and start to see what results come and where those blocks still are, so we can continue unlocking.
I'm just fascinated to hear you talk about this. And I'm wondering if you could actually share with us maybe a case study or a story about someone that you've worked with, that you've helped them overcome some of the mindset issues, or whether it's scarcity or any type of fear, really.
Absolutely. So most recently, I had a therapist. Actually, she was a guest on my podcast, and she came because her relationship with money, she had just tried so many things and nothing was really moving. And pretty quickly, we tuned into a wound related to her father and his relationship narrative that was running, to have things, to hold on to money and to not share it, and also around talking about money. So naming and claiming her desire for salary and profit was really difficult, because that was a no-no in the family. So we began to separate out what was hers and what was her family's, and we began to rewrite that story. What felt truer in her system as how she wanted to relate to money, and what she was willing to do relationship with money. And we did a variety of different things to improve her relationship with money. And when we first started, her income goal was $80,000 a year. She couldn't even say it. Like, her throat would crack, and she kind of whispered it to me in our call. And by the end of the 3 months coaching together, she had crossed the $80,000 profit mark in her practice and was able to shout from the rooftops. And now she's on course. I think she was consistently making about $8,000 a month, and now she's on track for 6 figures this year. And she was on stage at my event, my Healers Code Live event 2 weeks ago, just allowing herself to be so visible and so it's just so seen in her desire to receive. And it became such a transmission for other therapists about what's possible. That was a really beautiful, thank you for inviting me into that. I still have that confidentiality thing with therapy clients. So with coaching clients, I often forget that I can share exciting stories.
That's such a great story. I just want to clap for her. That's so awesome. I love that. That's really beautiful. What's happened and in your work and what she's overcome and what she's achieved, and really being able to feel okay and feel comfortable declaring that stuff is just essential.
Yes. Yeah, it's really moving. And I think it does become, there's really something about seeing what's possible by each other sharing our stories. I think if we're keeping these things a secret, or we're so ashamed of money, who's talking about what they make? It's we're oh, they're so arrogant, or they're so narcissistic. Why? Why is it a problem to celebrate what we're letting ourselves receive? How come that has to be private? Where is that story lodged, and why is it true? And is it actually true? And I think there's a difference between what part of us is guiding us to share our income or our desires. Is that a wounded part that's asking for attention or validation? Or is that a genuine celebration? And can we be allowed to celebrate with each other our wins and our earnings? And to me, it's evidence of the amount of people that you've served and shared your gifts with. And I think it's really exciting to be able to step into that. And the more we have, the more we can give. So we can create openings for sliding scale and pro bono. If we get a call and we're really resonant with serving a family or an individual or a couple, if we don't have any of our own money, it makes it really challenging to feel safe enough to say, yes, I can slide my fee, or yes, I can see you 3 to 10 times for free. But if we can do that without resentment or fear of losing something or not being able to pay our own bills, which is such a beautiful exhale in our system.
Totally. I know that so Kate and I follow the Profit First system, Michael McCallowitz, for our business. And I follow a system that I learned through Millionaire Mind Intensive. And part of that is 5% to give. And it was just this, sometimes concepts are so duh, it's so simple, it's so easy. But I remember when I started portioning off that money, there was so much freedom in being able to give that, where before it was well, I won't be able to buy this, or I should be putting this in my marketing or whatever, but I've always had enough. I've had enough to give now, and I've had enough to do everything else. And it's liberating, and it just feels so great to be able to give. And, just kind of thinking about what's going on with the shutdown and everything. And I was touched by a story about that today. And I was just well, I can do something, and I could just give. I could pay for someone something, and that's okay because I have it and I can do it. And wow, that feels so great in the height of the scarcity and fear. Yes. And so that relationship, it just took I could put a little over here, and that's freedom to give, because for me, money is freedom, right? And so when I'm giving, it's also freedom, and then that allows me to receive. So that's so cool. How do you help the therapists and coaches that you coach activate their abundance mindset? So you talk about the scarcity aspect, you label it, and then how do you help them switch into the abundance aspect?
A lot of times the switch happens naturally as they do some of that work, but part of it is we have a celebration practice who are 2 to 3 people that you can call when you successfully welcome a new client, and can you be specific about sharing that? And so celebration is a huge part of the abundance activation. Also being visible to yourself and to others in that process. So that's really amazing. That naming it and claiming it is a part of the activation process. It activates itself once the liberation happens. So once the scarcity moves and we step in, it's that's the result or the side effect that naturally seems to occur after that work is done.
As you say that, I totally think about Brene Brown's work, and Kate and I are huge fans. And when she talks about shame resiliency, right, is being able to share that shame breeds in silence and secrecy. And when we share it, it just flattens. Mm-hmm. It's like you said, it's a non-issue anymore. And then so if it's nothing in the space, then what can enter the space?
Yes.
It's just a beautiful thing. It's interesting. I had recently, I think it was this week or last week, I was driving into work to the office, and a client had called, and she previously sent me an email, said, I'm canceling my appointment. And the way that the email was written, it was just kind of abrupt, usually they'll say, I'm canceling my appointment, but I need to reschedule. Can you call me or something like that? So I was just hey, what's going on? I'm not that you needed to tell me why you're canceling, but I'm just confused. And so she called and I answered the phone and she's like, oh, I found another therapist. And like all of a sudden, boom, 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 like rejection, like all this stuff is playing in my mind. But I saw my mind battle. I was like, wow, I'm so grateful that she called, that she actually had the courage to have the conversation. I'm glad that I could receive it. And then I talked to my colleague about it who referred her to me. And I just shared all the garbage that was going on in my head. I was like, and then I was thinking like, you were thinking bad of me. And then I was thinking this. And she's like, Katie, that's ridiculous. I'm like, I know it's ridiculous, but I just needed to say it,
Yeah.
And then it was like, it said, it's gone. It's not true. Nothing of it's true. It's just, she just found a therapist that she connect with. Cool. Doesn't mean anything about me. And then it was just like flattened and good.
It's so true. Being seen, heard by each other. I mean, it reminds me of like the Me Too. Brene says that, our two favorite words. It's like being able to relate, that I think any of us would have that reaction when, a client chooses somebody else. So
Right.
normal.
Totally.
Yes. Well, we've been enjoying this conversation so much. I know I have. I just been like asking you all the questions and sharing. But Carrie, what do you want our Startup Nation superheroes to take away?
And so what I'd love you to take away with yourself today as you hear this is, what if it was okay to do it for the money and also do it because you love it and it's why you're here? And what if that could be the biggest activation? And also what a mirror it is to clients, that as we allow ourselves to receive, we also reflect back that it's safe for them to receive in their own life, not only financial abundance, but spiritual and health and love and peace and all of the ways that they're coming to us to receive support.
So cool. Love it. Well, we thank you so much for joining us today. And I know that you have a free giveaway, which is your 6-day abundance activation challenge that journeys through the money wounds and empowers a new relationship with abundance to increase the ease of receiving in business and in the bank.
Woo!
And they can find that at carrienola.com. So it's Carrie, KERINOLA.com. We'll also put the link on our show notes page, of course, so you guys don't have to try to remember that, especially if you're driving or listening to podcasts like I do in the shower. No place to write anything down or go online. Startup Nation, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We really love the exploration of scarcity proofing your practice. We hope that not only do you listen to this podcast, but take away the messages, the questions, and start to do some of your own work and really receive that which you desire. I think that's so essential. We hope that you guys join us next time as we talk to Katie Reed. So we'll have Katie Cubed on the podcast. So Katie and Katie, again, as talking more about scarcity mindset and up-leveling your income and your life. Startup Nation, we hope you have an amazing and inspired day. We thank you for allowing us to inspire you from startup to mastery. And always, if you want to come hang out with us a little bit more, check out our Facebook group. Just look for the Private Practice Startup on Facebook. And don't forget to check out the show notes page for all the tips, resources, links from today's show. If you're struggling with scarcity mindset, and you're probably afraid about talking about it, I bet if you share this podcast with someone, they will thank you and be happy that you did. So until next time, Startup Nation, thank you again for allowing us to inspire you from startup to mastery, and we'll see you later.
See you next time, guys.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.